Yes, it's it would worry anyone. It takes away my sleep many times. The fact that politics got into it also, because along the years, first of all, the Freeport, the Declaration of Freeport, changed a lot of things. And in the beginning, when the natives were more into all the 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 activities that had to do with reception, with receiving tourists, with being taxi drivers, with being the people that carry the tourists out to the keys in lanches and things like that. It was still I don't know, the mentality and the behavior of people was still more Caribbean. Yeah. And people came from outside. There were excursions of Americans. There were the nomads. There were all types of visitors from all over the world. People came along the years from during the time when people started to migrate to the island. Beginning for our families were migrants also because they came from Jamaica and from Trinidad and from Nicaragua. My mother's side is mostly from the Nicaraguan coast. Her ascendants, but everybody fit in and had a harmonious existence. Even Europeans and everything, Mr. Rignier, Mr. Louis Rubinstein, many Americans, Germans, the key out there, the name Heinz key. I think it's because of the person that used to own it first or dwell there. Heinz, his surname was Heinz. And like that Chapman point, that is because of somebody by that name also. Uh-huh. And these people had a very harmonious coexistence, yeah. And they had that respect that there was a local traditional inhabitants, and they followed that. You know? Our people had perfect communication with Americans, with whatever. They would leave from here and work on the canal zone. They would work in the oil refinery system, the Texaco and everything, and they could understand each other. They could live among each other like one. And as I tell you, when the Freeport in the 50s, the islanders were still in a leadership, and somehow they had lodgings, they were, as I said, taxi drivers, lancheros, and things like that. And many of them even were famous for their character, for the way they behaved. There was Bull, was the strong lunch guy, and he used to lift up the tourists, and that was part of an attraction. Also, his what was his name? Ricardo Stevens. They call him Bull, but he was a big, strapping, dark guy. He was Sky uncle, the uncle of Brother Sky that does the hats and that makes the weave hats and so on. But he was a lunch person. He used to carry tourists out, and then there were famous photographs of him lifting up one lady in one hand and a little girl in the other, and stuff like that. And all these were it was rich, I mean, rich things to offer to the visitor, you know. And the way they dance, the way they talk, the kind of music we used to listen to, nice country music, nice calypso, nice yeah, in the 70s and the 80s, nice reggae. And so the island had an aura of its own. Yeah. When I left from here in the 70s to go to Barranquilla to study, I carried that personality that we live here, the way we enjoy our tropical island, the way we go to the beach, the way we wear shades and everything. When I reached to Barranquilla in that year, I'm talking about 78, women never use dark shades on the street or on tanto that one day I always laugh and give them the joke because I was like some kind of weird, strange thing among them. I was very young. I was only 18. And I used to be very full of myself. And so I used to walk around. I used to carry my dark shades from here. I had different dark shades and so. And when I walk on the street, one guy told me, "Parece un bus de Soledad Rebels." That means you look like one of the Soledad buses coming back way. Okay? But it's because we had uh, a different mentality, a different way of being. Yeah. So it marked the difference when the Colombian government realized that there was so much beautiful scenery, so much beautiful space. At the beginning, they came because we had commerce going with the United States and with Europe. And the things that they could find here, the goods that they could find here on the island, they never saw it in Colombia. They never had it in Colombia. The kind of cars that drove around here in that time, they never had a chance at it. Only maybe the rich circle or whatever. So they came out here to the island and they were a set of women that they call what? Vivanderas. I think it was. These are women that used to come and then they buy things here and then go back and sell it for another price in Colombia. They come and they stack up and go, and especially in fine whiskey and things like that, they took back. So that was the people that were coming was really to buy and carry back. And then they would dip in the sea or whatever. Then they begin to promote the island like sun, sun, and sea and whatever. And then the Colombian government realized that it was I don't know, something like a little treasure out here. And they begin promoting it as a tourist resort and then telling them that families that have more than one child is welcome to come and live here because it's part of Colombia. And then the problem starts because they begin to come in timely. They fill up the policemen that came single, ended up with a wife here, or they brought one that they had left over there, and it began to move. And then further on, worse yet, the political groups that begin to flourish began to sell it out in this in fact that you want to come to San Andres, I pay you ticket and I bring you over and I help you to build a house there and you vote for me. So that is where some of the what they call barrios, the neighborhoods here, the Barrio Obrero, the Natanias, the this and that, Natania especially, yeah, and many of them started to come, and then these people, um, all poor people are really very fertile. They tend to enjoy having a lot of children more than necessary. So we find ourselves overrun very fast, and then the quality begin to change. It begin to go down lower and lower because I tell them over there, vente a San Andrés que allá es uno que vive bien rico allá y allá uno puede trabajar y uno puede comprar. Yeah. So it started to go from mouth to mouth, and there was one barrio in Chambacu that was in Bolivar, in Cartagena. We had a joke about that because they claimed that that barrio disappeared because all of them flocked to San Andres. And unfortunately, I mean, newcomers normally bring a part of them. So that began to import different customs, different ideas. They stop following what they learned when they came and begin imposing their own timely, and it begin to damage to mind our culture, our behavior, our attitude, our respect for things, our moral codes, our religious inclinations. And in this island, it was organized in such a way that the religious leaders' opinion or a word was enough to squash any brawl. Yeah. And at this moment, unfortunately, they are completely the majority, you know. We didn't want to admit it for a long time, but I think it's quite clear no. And it's scary that they realize that because they begin to be more daring and more imponent with their behavior towards us. And discrimination is really right there just under the surface. Yeah. And even ugly ways to call us as an ethnic group. No, it's very delicate. It is very delicate, and we worry about the fact that our younger ones, so in some homes they are so careless that being Raizal families, they don't speak English to their children. They end up talking Spanish to the children. So some children in Raizal homes, if you try to, in my case, for instance, when I have to go to schools and I have to talk to young people or anything, at the beginning I try to tell myself that it's not their fault, no? But when I have to go to the schools and talk to the children, I get so sad when I realize that they practically, it's like you turn off a switch. When you start talking, they ignore, or say they realize that you're talking English, or you're talking about something that is not on the phone or whatever. They simply ease down in the chair and take out the phone and start on it, or they hastily get up and walk out of the salon or whatever and leave you there talking
I've
or whatever.
experienced that.
It's really hard, really hard. I don't know in what way. I mean, it's our fault because, for instance, at home, the children are watching TV. There was the TV station, the cable TV, for instance, at the beginning, they used to leave the movies or the news or whatever in the original language, in English. And the very parents, parents of native Raizal people say, they don't understand that. They don't understand when they say put it in Spanish. One day I asked the fellow, I'm friendly with the owner of that cable company, and I asked him, the fellow there from a Caribe Libros there that has the company. I asked him, what is the reason why we can't see the movies anymore? The TV channels, National Geographics and things like that are interesting programs, and translations don't work. I don't agree with translations. So you lose so much. You lose the humor. You lose the essence, really, of what is done in a certain language. You have to realize that you're only getting what the translator decide to put there, no? And he said, no, your own people ask for it because they said the children don't understand it. And you will hear them, like friends of mine, you hear them, how them children? No, I left them home watching Muñequito. Yeah. O sea, that means they're at home looking at cartoons. But then, why you as the mother calling it muñequito, and why you leave it on in Spanish when your children should be native and when you should be promoting their knowledge or their to be able to handle themselves in English, a universal language like English. I mean, it's a business language, it's a cultural language, a social language, everything. I lived in Europe. I lived in Germany for 6 years because my first husband was a German. I was very young when I went, but with my English, I went through Germany and I never had a problem. Even when they spoke Italian, when they spoke French, when they spoke Dutch, or in Switzerland the same. Why? Because I spoke English. Yeah. Every one of them had their national language, but everyone spoke English, even normal, common people. So I never had a problem. I learned German because I watched TV. I decided I was not going to, I wanted my driver's license. I wanted to be able to drive over there, but I had to know the language. And in a very short time, I learned because I realized that a very easy method is relating image with sound. So I watch TV, and even especially the TV ads and so propagandas and so it helped me through. Yeah. So I manage the language. But our people are dropping it. I mean to say there is a very thin line, and I hope I don't offend anyone, but there is a very thin line between speaking English and speaking Creole English. And if you want to speak Creole English, you should learn English because there are things that don't change. There are things that don't change. A shoe will be a shoe, a camera is a camera, a chair is a chair. The way you put it in a Caribbean way, a Caribbean lingo, and the accent that you use, that should only be the decoration. But we shouldn't drift so far from there because English pulled us through all these years. Our foreparents went out to college. Mr. Arthur May, that I mentioned, that it was the owner of the store and the house in the sea here in the Gulf, and that he was really a business administrator. He left these islands at a very young age, along with other young men from here. They were between 16, 17, 18. Young men that finished their studies with the Royal English Readers, with the English readers. That was the school method in that time. The schools were in all in English, and the students learn until the sixth book. Yeah, I think in the rest of the Caribbean it was also with that method. And they left from here after they finished the sixth book. They were ready for college because the themes in the book is about geography, literature, history, and chemistry, whatever. So they were well educated in a stable language. They left from here. Some went to Tuskegee, some went to Meharry, some went to, you know, and they got their what you call it, their profession, their master, their profession, and then came back and they became the big businessmen or the lawyers or the dentists or the things around. And as I said, in the 50s when the tourism began to become such like as business, that's what pulled the people through. That's how the taxi drivers got along with their passengers, and they could talk equally and enjoy each other. And when we round the rundown path and we in school playing and skipping rope, then we go down to Creole English and we enjoy it because there's nothing sweeter than giving a joke in Creole, and you know it. Huh? But then don't let go of the main line, so that you be competent, so that you be somebody that is able to manage situations and go far. Because unfortunately with Creole, as far as the key, it's quite okay. But from there and beyond, only if you meet a guy from Trinidad, maybe you can joke. You can joke again in Creole.
We stop you there for a minute. I got to change the battery.